It is pretty clear that right now, we are living through chaotic times. With the pandemic in full effect, people losing jobs, riots, and looting on the streets, it's pretty easy to lose hope and ask for better times. To assume that no matter what we do or how hard we try or how much effort we put in, we are doomed to fail. And if like me you are below 30 years old, then that probably means that this is the first time you're dealing with something like this, with a global crisis, not only economically, but socially speaking as well. And even if you are old enough to have suffered the consequences of the '08 crisis, most likely you weren't ready for this one, as no one was. It's a terrible situation, and even though no one pretty much was ready to deal with it, I want to pose this question. Even though there is chaos and instability, does it mean we are doomed to fail? To preface my answer, I want to say that in general, obviously, things are gonna get worse. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs, their businesses, and in the worst of cases, their loved ones. Now, with that in mind, this is by no means intended to be disrespectful or hurtful towards those who are dealing with these real hard problems. However, if you are in a situation where it may seem terrible, but it's still under your control, I have a story I want to share with you. In the year 1415, King Henry had invaded French territory with what you could call unrealistic goals. After a few months of campaigning with average results, he decided to head back to England. However, with the British exhausted, the French army easily caught up, blocking the path that would allow them to flee. With winter approaching, this was looking dangerous for the English. On top of that, they were heavily outnumbered, with around 6,000 troops to the 15,000 of the French. On paper, certain defeat was approaching. Despite this, the English were able to set a semi-solid defense, placing wooden spikes to slow the French cavalry down if they were to charge, and hiding archers in the forest surrounding both armies to set a possible trap. Now, as the French were much more well supplied and had no rush, they decided to wait for the English to make a move. Seeing this, the British army decided to slowly push forward, setting their defenses much closer to the French army. Soon after, their hidden archers started firing in hopes of provoking some of the French. A strategy that soon enough succeeded and saw the French cavalry charge towards the British army without being told to do so. This reckless approach resulted in most of the cavalry getting impaled by the wooden spikes, which in turn resulted in panic for the remaining horses, which ran away, causing havoc within the French army. Despite this, the French still heavily outnumbered the English, so they regrouped and started pushing forward. The moment of truth was soon arriving. However, unfortunately for the French, the field was full of mud, making anyone that tried to walk across it slow and tired. This made the French advance at a snail's pace, getting exhausted with every step they took. And on top of this, they were getting shot up by arrows from the English army. If you were one of the French, you can imagine how the panic and chaos started to set in. When they finally made it to the British army, they were beyond exhausted. But due to their sheer numbers advantage, they still were able to push the British army back. This was soon to end, as the British army, led by King Henry himself, who was fighting on the field, was able to surround the French army that, lacking serious leadership, started to surrender unit by unit. Seeing this, the remaining troops fled, and soon enough, the whole of the remaining French army fled as well, opening the path for the British to escape. In total, the French started at 15,000 men and ended up losing 8,000 men. On the other side, the British, who were heavily outnumbered, ended up losing only around 100 men. Now, this battle, to me, is the perfect real-life example of the following quote: "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." A situation that seemed lost by default was turned around by beautiful strategy and taking advantage of chaos. And even though we aren't wagering real wars in our lives, of course, we're all still fighting for better circumstances, whether that may be to stay afloat or to get to the next level. However, as we've seen that in real wars, where death is just but a part of it, it is always possible to make the best out of a terrible situation. The same can be said for our own lives. Now, will it be hard? Yes. Will you have to get creative? Of course. Will some people, despite putting all the effort and all the creativity, still suffer? Absolutely, unfortunately. However, despite all of this, trying is still the best option, because laying down, wavering our white flag and giving up will add more terrible consequences to whatever may be happening already. So now, I want to ask you this. Does it mean that due to this chaos and uncertainty, you have to fail? Now, risking generalizing this a bit too much, I'm gonna say no, you don't. Sure, you may get hit badly. Your bank account may suffer, your relationships may take a hit, your mental health may shake as well. However, this does not mean you have to go down. Because in any given circumstance, for how bad it may seem, you can always choose to do what you believe is right. As the author of Man's Search for Meaning and Auschwitz concentration camp survivor Viktor Frankl put it, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's one attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And if you are someone who found themselves struggling and losing a bit of hope with everything that's going around, maybe feeling a bit desperate that there is no solution to be found, let this be your North Star. This quote, these battles, these examples throughout history, that no matter how bad things get, there's always a solution to be found. You just have to find it. If you made it to this end of the video, I want to say thank you, first of all, for watching the video all the way through. If you really enjoyed it, I would appreciate if you leave a like, if you subscribe. It really helps out with the channel and to reach out to more people so that they can see the video as well. Other than that, let me know as well in the comments below what you'd like to see in the next video. Suggestions are always appreciated. And other than that, I just want to wish you a great week, and I'll see you next week.